You're listening to Create Wealth Through Franchising, and I'm your host, Kim Daly. In my 20 years as a franchise consultant, I've helped hundreds of people achieve their dreams of building and scaling franchise businesses to create wealth. The interview you're about to hear can also be found on my YouTube channel, where I post new franchising content multiple times per week. Please take a moment to subscribe to the podcast and to my YouTube channel at kimdaly.tv. Now, enjoy the show. Welcome back to Kim Daly TV. I have a special guest for us today. His name is Wally Bressler. Wally, welcome to the studio of Kim Daly TV.
Feeling special today. Thank you. Thank you. Good to be here.
This guy is the sales guru. Every franchisee's favorite word, said nobody like ever, except Kim Daly.
Ever.
Right? Every business owner out there is in sales. Whether you think you are or you think you're not, you are, right? And the biggest problem in franchising is that so many people think that it's the franchisor's job to find their customers for them. Then they get in, they become a business owner, and they wake up and they go, oh, you know what? I have to go find my own people. I don't know how to do that. So, Wally, you've been masterful at real estate, right? And then you started training other real estate agents. I think I read somewhere that you've done over 40,000 one-on-one coaching calls. I mean, I thought I was pretty productive, but you're like 10xing my numbers.
Just a nice way of saying I'm old, really. It just really comes down to that. It's just nice
I don't know. So you're the creator of the Trigger Sales System. So I want to talk about what is the Trigger Sales System and why is this topic so important to every business owner, franchise owner out there?
You know, Tony Robbins talks about happiness in life comes from fulfillment, comes from growing, comes from becoming, an even better version of ourselves every day. And I believe that people really buy into the American dream, that they can have whatever they want in life if they're willing to put the time, energy, and whatever else into it. But what happens is we get excited, and a lot of people get excited, and then we get into it and we're like moving along, and all of a sudden we're like, and then all of a sudden something stops us. And for a lot of us, we don't know what it is that stops us. And so, the Trigger Sales System is all about helping you find what is triggering you to create that procrastination, that self-sabotage, that perfectionism, imposter syndrome, unwillingness to pick up the phone, whatever it is to do your business, this might be helpful for you. 60% of all salespeople, and we're going to consider entrepreneur salespeople, have a very strong need to be liked. And that need for approval is so strong that they fear rejection. They fear not being liked. They fear not being accepted so much that they're not going to do the things necessary to make it happen. So that means they're not going to go to mixers to meet other people. They're not going to go to the Chamber of Commerce. They're not going to call people. You know what I'm saying? They'll email people to death, text them to death, pay for marketing until it comes out of their ears, but they won't go ahead and get in front of people. And as a result of that, that's a lot of times where their businesses don't make it, right?
Totally. It's totally right. So many business owners buy into the marketing plan of a franchise, but they never really stop to think about how to build their own referred lead, engine. And at the end of the day, referred leads are always going to be higher quality, leads than anybody you're ever going to pay for. And they're cheaper. Right. So,
yeah. And the cheapest lead is a repeat customer, right? I mean, it stands to reason that if I go get a franchise, it's what's like a really great franchise that you've been talking to people about lately?
Well, a lot of the franchises that people like the commoner out there who thinks about franchising would think about like the brick and mortar, Jersey Mike's, Chick-fil-A, but that's not where Kim Daly plays, right? Kim Daly plays in a lower investment, like for the average person, we don't need the four walls because we have the opportunity to go out there and drive activity in a sales-driven organization. So to answer your question, like a home services franchise where maybe you're selling gutters or you're selling irrigation or you're selling outdoor lighting or you're selling a new roof.
Closet, something like that, California Closets.
Exactly. Cal Closets is a great example.
What else? The big shutter company too does the plantation shutters and stuff like that.
Absolutely. Budget blinds.
Yeah, exactly. Budget blinds. Thank you. So let's just say I'm a budget blinds franchisee, right? Budget blinds. And I knew budget blinds, even though I didn't remember it. I knew that they were out there. And so, I think people think with the franchise, it's kind of like, Field of Dreams. If you build it, they will come. Hey, I'm going to put my name online, and I've got budget blinds, and I'm the local budget blinds guy or gal, and everybody's going to come in and get plantation shutters for their house. And that's not the case, right? I've got to,
Well, sadly, it's not the case after they paid the franchise fee. If they
no,
haven't worked with
sure.
Kim Daly or someone who, told them,
Yeah,
that's not gonna be your reality. If it
I
was,
know.
everybody would do it.
I know, but there's only one Kim Daly, right? So you can only talk to so many people, right? You can't help, you just can't. And so, but the fact of the matter is that people see the opportunity, they see the great thing that's going to happen. It's just that, and here's where it comes from. This is, and I'll tell people how to figure it out for themselves. And I did this for myself. I actually had call reluctance for 10 years. Okay. There's something that happens between the time we're born at about 12 or 13 that creates this triggers this fear. And it's a lot of times a lot of our belief systems and our identities are created by the time we're 7, definitely not really later than 12 or 13. So sexual abuse, physical abuse, emotional abuse, being bullied, parents who don't do a great job, which a lot of them didn't, alcoholic parents, parents getting divorced when you're younger, parents who fight all the time, oddly enough, parents who never fought, or even if you make an observation, like, we were poor growing up, and so I could see it in the clothes that were different than other people had. I could see that my lunches were different than other people, and so I convinced myself it was poor. I grew up with a poverty consciousness. I've wasted millions of dollars, and in a way, just to get people to like me. You know what I'm saying? Because I thought money was the way to do that. But the problem is that we get triggered, something triggers us, and it gets planted like a little seed in our brain. And then for the rest of our lives, we just avoid whatever causes that pain. I mean,
Wow.
what happens is it creates this self-esteem issues is usually what it creates. And if you're sexually abused, I was sexually abused when I was 10, that creates a lot of fear in you. That creates a lot of lack of belief in yourself. It really helps you get to the point where you don't feel you're worthy and that you value things. Same thing for people that grow up poor. And so we just reinforce those belief systems on a day over day, week over week, month over month basis. And we avoid any situation that would create pain there. And now I'm 35, 40 years old, and I'm sick of working someplace, and I want to go have my own business because I'm smart and I've done well, and I think I can put it into something else, and I get this business, and then everything's great. And I've got my business plan in place, and I've got my advertising, my marketing, I've got my franchise agreement in place, I've got my territory marked out, I understand everything, I get every freaking blind I could possibly give somebody, like I've done everything, and now I got to get business. And people go into vapor lock, right? And that's it. And that's what happens. And Rick Carson talks about it in Taming Your Gremlin. He's like, we've got this gremlin inside of us that we've been basically growing our entire lives. And as soon as, yeah, right, exactly, right. Name the movie. Name the movie. Name the movie. Come on.
Oh. You name the movie. I'm just doing it.
Arnold Schwarzenegger. Arnold Schwarzenegger.
I thought it was like the Will Smith movie.
No, maybe, yeah, possibly, yeah. I drew a blank now. It's when they go to Mars. I'll remember it. So anyway,
Exactly.
Total Recall. Total Recall. Total Recall. So anyway,
Okay.
yeah, now we're both old, for God's sakes. So the whole point is this gremlin comes in and says, "Whoa, wait a second, no, we don't do these things. We have issues." And here's the thing, Kim, we don't all have low self-esteem. Like, for me, you want me to get in front of a group and talk, you want me to train you, you want to do sales calls, I'm 100%. You want me to be like a ballerina? You want me to be a jockey? You want me to do my girl's hair, their makeup? No, I have very little low, and I don't feel good about myself there because I don't do it, right? So it's not like if I have a self-esteem issue in one area, it's going to be another area. But the fact of the matter is when it comes to putting myself in a position where I could be rejected, or I could be, where it triggers those pains of not feeling worthy or not being good enough, people freeze, or, they get dry mouth and sweaty palms and sweaty pits, and the bad news is that it's not going to go away without them doing some work on themselves.
Yes, this sounds like a psychology course. So,
Kind of is. It kind of is. Yeah, it kind of is. Yeah.
which is kind of funny because I tell people, look, if Kim Daly is anything, she's a mindset coach because, you can go out there and explore franchises on your own. But when you come to me, I'm coaching your mindset on how to think about this. Like, we're starting with your goals, not what you think you're interested in,
Start with
right?
the end in mind. Yeah.
And so it's very similar. So are there so give us some, not without giving it away, but what are some of the practical tools that your trigger system goes into? How does someone, if you're going to go down this path and how do those tools directly then impact your ability to go out and overcome yourself, if you will, in a sales environment, which it sounds like that's sort of the limiting factor here. You got to overcome yourself.
You gotta. Yeah. It's not even just a matter of overcoming. It's a matter of doing what your brain and nervous system needs you to do. Okay. So And I'm just going to use myself as an example. So I was addicted to food, money, sex, and pornography for 40 plus years. Okay, I had a binge eating disorder from the age of 6. I was sexually abused at 10, started looking at pornography at 11, started having sex at 12. I was bullied the entire time. By the time I was 13, 14, I didn't like myself. And then that turned into a ton of self-sabotage. I cheated on my ex-wife 4 times. I've probably blown about $5 million just because I thought money was a way to get people to like me. I spent a year in federal prison. My former business partner lied on $15 million worth of mortgages. And because I didn't want, I wasn't stealing money, but because I wanted to just change my life, I just kind of ignored stuff. I even stayed in a toxic relationship for 4.5 years and found out at the end that the woman was still married the entire time we were together, even after accepting an engagement ring from me. You know what I'm saying? But that's what happens when you're in self sabotage mode. And I thought I was going to, instead I was going to take my life about a month later, but I didn't. But after going through the several years of working on myself, I realized that, when we can't do something, when we're having trouble getting out of our own way, it's something that we probably don't even realize that's stopping us. So I'll give you the 5-step process I take people through. Okay. So step number 1 is we've got to become aware. I can't solve a problem that I don't know exists, right? I can't, you don't go to the doctor and say, "Hey, I've got a headache," and the doctor says, "Okay, lay down. We're going to operate." Like, whoa, whoa! Don't you have some questions? Outside, inside, intermittent pounding. Like, don't you want to know? No, just lay down. No, right, right. We've got to know
I
what
hope
the
so.
problem is, right? Yeah, hopefully, right. It depends on what country you're in, I guess. But so here's what I have people do. It's very simple. I have them go. We got to become aware. So you go get a couple of note cards. You can do this yourself today. Go, or when you're watching this, go take 2 note cards, and on it, I want you to write down what is the source of my, and if it's procrastination, put procrastination. If it's perfectionism, put perfectionism. If it's both, put those, right? Or whatever it is. What is it that's keeping me from calling people and getting people into work with my business? Whatever it is, write it down. The same thing on both cards, because you remember, your brain remembers everything you've ever tasted, touched, smelled, heard, or seen, every sense, right? But it stacks it like this. It doesn't do. I mean, some people are lucky to get like filing cabinet mode, but most people get a stack, right? And so a lot of stuff is way down, but your brain remembers it all. So what I want you to do is take one of those cards, keep it with you during the day and look at it, put the next one next to your nightstand and read it. And by the time you wake up tomorrow morning, you'll know exactly what it was. The experiences will be brought up for you. Like, in fact, while I'm talking about this, there are people whose brains are already going back and doing the work. See, because here's the thing, our brains have a really simple job: to keep us alive, to keep us safe, right? And part of that safety thing is the resolution of problems. Like, your brain wants clarity, it wants understanding. Ever been in a situation where you're overwhelmed and you couldn't figure it out, and the same 3 or 4 thoughts were like whipping around your head? That's your brain just trying to find out a way to figure things out, and it's just overloaded. So, but once we find out what that is, now we can go, oh, most people don't even realize the connection between being bullied and not doing well in life and business. It's really weird. I just talked to somebody that did, like, I had no idea that those things were connected, and they are. So, which is interesting. But so now that I've got this, the second step is like it's awareness, define, identify, mindfulness. And so we went from a global awareness of where it's coming from to situational awareness.
Like what triggers it?
Exactly, that's the trigger, right? So what happens is T. Harv Eker, personal development expert, he calls it TFAR: thoughts, feelings, actions, results. So I get triggered, I get a thought. Now I should get a feeling, okay? But if I'm a procrastinator, perfectionist, if I'm an addict, if I don't want to deal with that pain, I'm going to go, bye bye feeling. Let's just go right to action. Let's drink. Let's do drugs. Let's have sex. Let's watch pornography. Let's procrastinate. I've got to call people, but look at all the dishes in the sink. Whew. Look at all those clothes that need to be folded. I haven't talked to Johnny in a while. How's he? Right? We go into action or inaction, and then we get a result. However, if we would just do our brain the favor that it wants us to do and feel that feeling when it comes up, everything would change. So what happens is I want people to go back and visit what happened, because I want them to feel the feelings that come up when that happens, because they can then process them. So the
I'll
trigger
tell
comes
you
up.
that, not to interrupt your flow, but as a business owner, I think what happens, I know this used to happen to me before I identified it, is like picking up the phone sometimes can weigh 10,000 pounds if you're making an outbound call or you're cold calling somebody. So
Yeah,
you totally procrastinate by doing busy work. But
anything.
but the year that I focused on being productive, which was making myself pick up that phone first before I did anything else in my business, was the year, which was my ninth year as a franchisee at Franchoise, and was the year that I ended up making history in my industry. So busy and productive are two different
Yeah,
things.
not coincidental, by the way. Not
Yeah.
coincidental. But the whole point is you've got to realize, like, you have to have that situational awareness. Okay, I'm ready to go pick up the phone. Oh, ooh, I'm feeling anxious. I'm sad. I'm feeling less than. I'm feeling, what I'm saying? Yeah, exactly. Right. Right. Exactly. Whatever it is. Exactly. Right. Here. Where's that squirrel video of him water skiing? Let me find that on Facebook again. Scroll, 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 scroll. But the whole point is that's what happens. But instead of doing that, you're like, you know what? That's anxiety. And this is where it's coming from. I need to pick up the phone, or God, I've got a big meeting tomorrow. I've got a date tomorrow. I've got something, anything that's going to trigger that whatever it is for you, lack of self-worth, lack of approval. Right. But then instead of falling prey to it, you let the feeling come up. Krista Neff, who's an expert in self-compassion, says, allow the suffering to come up, acknowledge it, and let it happen. And then from there, become mindful. I know,
Yeah.
literally, it's not a lie. Like, just,
Yeah.
okay, this really sucks. Okay, great. But you know what? Now that it sucks, let's let it go. And so then become mindful, which is literally, let's just focus on what's happening now. We can't focus on the future and the fear. We can't focus on the past and the sadness. So do some box breathing. You close your eyes or square breathing. You count of 4 in, hold for a count of 4 out, hold for a count of 4, and do that for about a minute. What it does is it takes you out of fight or flight and puts you in rest and digest. Exactly, which is our natural, like, I'm cool state. The reason we get lightheaded when we go to make phone calls and our mouths dry up and we get sweaty is because our brain is getting ready to protect us to do what it needs to do. So it turns off your saliva. It basically turns off as much of your digestive system as possible, hence the upset stomach and the lightheadedness. It opens up your bladder so you can go pee. It puts extra air in your lungs so you can run and fight if you have to. I mean, it's literally like that. And that's why we feel so sick when we have to go do things we don't like.
That's
Okay.
interesting.
But once you start breathing and relaxing and letting it go, that's fine. Now, I have people prophylactically work on mindfulness, and I send them to the mindful movement on YouTube, and I have them practice 5 and 10 minute mindful meditations, because you can actually train your brain to do it for you. Your brain will actually not let that crap come in. It'll take your triggers and make your triggers go away. It's pretty cool. Okay.
That is
Step three.
very cool.
Step three is we've got to rewire our brain, right? Neuroplasticity, the ability to rewire our brain. And I love Hal Elrod's book. It's called Miracle Morning. He calls them savers. So it's savers. So it's scribing, journaling, affirmations, visualization, exercise, reading, and then meditation, silence. And it's 10 minutes of each of those. And you change what you start saying to yourself. You change what you think about yourself. You journal so you can see what's going on in your head so you can process it. And you just do that every day. And that rewires your brain.
I'm really big on all of those.
Yes, you have to be.
I love the rewiring
You have to
process.
be. If you're going to be successful, if you're going to perform at the level that people like you and I perform at, you have to do that sort of stuff,
Yeah.
right? Because the
We
more,
all have bad habit. We all think the negative thoughts. It's just that we're choosing to replace those with positive thoughts.
for
Yes.
sure, exactly. And then we're choosing to the point where our brain just latches on and just gives them to you regularly. Look, people are like, oh, I want to be a millionaire. You know what? When you're a millionaire, you've got more expensive, you got more problems, you got more responsibility, right? You just not you have no problems, you just get bigger problems and more expensive problems. The money doesn't make them go; it just makes them worse. I'm not lying. I'm not lying. I don't. I didn't
Yeah.
want to know what you're in New Hampshire. I didn't even want to know what your tax bill is in your house. It's got to be, and I'm not wrong.
Yep.
And
The
I'm
same thing
not
when you
wrong.
have little kids and you wish they were big. Well,
I
now you got
know.
bigger
Yeah, yeah.
problems. They cost more expensive. They're more
Possible more.
expensive than little problems.
Take a 5-year-old any day right now. Any day. Yeah. Look,
Exactly.
you give me your 5-year-old.
Parents of
Yeah,
teenagers.
I'll give you my 16-year-old daughter. Well, in fact, I'll staple $100 bill to her just to have you take her. I love you, Caroline. So anyway, so number 4. Now that I've opened my mind and I'm not focusing on the things I'm running away with, let's really start thinking about what you want for the future. We go and talk about Daniel Pink. Instead of carrot and stick motivation, we go autonomy, mastery. What does my life look like when I'm living my true life, when I'm autonomous, when I own my budget blinds franchise, and I've got people selling blinds, installing blinds, making calls for me, and I'm just showing up and taking care of things? What does that look like to me? How does that feel? And then what do I need to master to make that happen? One of those is always emotional mastery. You're going to master your emotions. You got to go from emotional reactivity to emotional responsiveness, right? And then the last one is figuring out your why. What's your why? Most people don't know what their why is because they don't even know, they're afraid to think of their why because they likely don't feel like they deserve it. Daniel Pink, I think he says it best. Your why is a combination of two things. Number one, a pain that you felt in the past that either you don't want to feel or that you don't want somebody else to feel. So for me, growing up poor and all the crap I went through, like, that's a huge motivation for me, for my kids, is to not have them go through the stuff I went through. And then the second thing is you have to be able to do something to affect the outcome over. You've got to be able to contribute something. Does that make sense? So, your kids are not a why, they're a who. Your house is a what. Your car is a what. Retirement is a when, right? But in order to make sure that my kids have money and that they know how to use money. This is why I'm running my business. This is why I get up. This is why I get on podcasts. This is why I'm doing all the things I need to do. And like you probably work 10, 12 hours a day because I know that I want to create something for my children so that when I'm gone, number one, I leave a good legacy, but also that I know that they have money that will take care of them for the rest of their lives. Does that make sense? And so by doing that, and so here's the kicker: it usually takes 2 months or less. You know what I'm saying? We could go through it for I didn't start working on myself till I was almost 50. You know what I'm saying? And it took me a lot longer because I had to figure things out. But a lot of people are on the phone, having conversations with people, losing weight, ending relationships, and doing all the stuff they know they need to for their own personal happiness and well-being and their business within 2 months or less in most cases, because your brain's been begging you for all life to do it. And finally, when you do it, your brain's like, go, go, go.
Isn't that amazing how you just said like all those other things? We start out talking about, driving sales in a business, but the
Yeah,
reality is like when you look at like truly successful people, they have mastery in a lot of areas of their life. They may still be working on some, but a lot of areas of their life because it does go together. It all, as you start improving one area of your life, you naturally improve other areas of your life by law of attraction as well.
that,
Yeah,
that rising tide raises all ships. You know what I'm saying? You know,
I
you know,
love that.
yeah. Brene Brown talks about this. I know we're getting close to the end of your show here. Sorry. Brene Brown and everybody, if you've not read The Gifts of Imperfection, you have to read it because it's a really good book about learning to accept yourself as you are and realizing that God created you just the way you are. You're perfectly imperfect and everybody's good enough just the way that they are. That's really where this all starts. But she says, when you numb one emotion, you numb them all. So I can't
Wow.
numb pain and have love. I can't numb sadness and have happiness, right? If I'm numbing sadness and pain, I'm numbing love and happiness,
Wow,
right?
that's
So
really
I've got to, that's
powerful.
that's really, I've got to learn how to stop numbing those pains and letting that pain come up and go, and learning how to deal with it and actually keep it from coming in, so that I can explore happiness and joy and all that other stuff.
What's the name of that book? Say it again.
The Gifts of Imperfection.
The Gifts of Imperfection. I
Brene
love
Brown.
Brené Brown.
Great
Yeah,
book.
I
Yeah.
love
Yeah,
that.
we talked about this last time. Yeah. Yep, it's good stuff. That's my story,
Well,
and I'm sticking to it.
you're an incredibly inspiring man. I mean, your life story is really something to listen to.
Thank
I
you.
bet, we could go on for a lot longer. So if
Unfortunately.
people are intrigued by this trigger sales system, whether you're a business owner or whether you're just a human, right? Let's
Yeah,
back it up a little bit from
yeah,
business ownership to
yeah,
just
yeah.
being a human with, some stuff that happened to you in your life. How do they find out about the trigger sales system? How would somebody get involved in the course?
Yeah, so great question. I mean, here's the thing. I'm one of my whys. One of the things I pledged to is I don't want anybody else to have to hit rock bottom like I did. I had more than enough motivation. I had more than enough whys to make changes way before 50 years old. I just didn't let it serve me. So my goal is to make sure that people can use whatever leverage they have in their life now to make the changes they want, so they can enjoy a better life sooner rather than later. By the way, rock bottom, it's no fun to visit. It's not a good place. I mean, honestly, it get, because these things left unresolved, turn into massive anxiety, depression, PTSD, and then, you feel like you can't do anything else. And that's when you feel like you want to put a gun in your mouth. And, that's what happened to me. So I don't want people to do that. So anybody who wants to talk with me gets a half hour on my calendar, no cost. You can hop in and I will tell you within 15 minutes exactly what's stopping you from doing what you need to do. It takes 10, 15 minutes. I can ask you a few questions. Everything you say to me stays with me, and you'll leave the call knowing exactly what happened that's preventing you from doing what you need to do. And then if you want to take my class, you can take my class, and then that's fine. But the talking with me does not obligate you to take my class. That's my gift to you.
And on your podcast, is there more information about trigger sales as well?
Yeah. So if you go to triggersalessystem.com, you can see information about it. There's a bunch of testimonials on there. If you Google my name, and just like your name, 50 videos come up. There's all kinds of visits I've had with different people where I've shared different things. I published a book last year where I tell my entire story. You can get it on Amazon. So those, if you're that interested in, and you can check it out. I think one caveat here is that you don't need to have had a train wreck of a childhood like I did to be in a position where things are impacting you.
Yep.
I seriously, I'll give you one quick example here. There was a client of mine that could not pick up the phone and call people. And after talking with him, what we realized is that when he was like 8 or 9, a new kid moved to the neighborhood. And he kept going over every day to meet the new kid, hang out with the new kid, hang out with the new kid. And one day, the kid's brother opened the door and said, "Hey, you don't have to come over here every day."
Oh.
And he took it that he was bothering him, and for the rest of his life, he thought he was bothering people and could not pick up. I mean, it's sometimes it's just that simple. It
Oh,
literally
so
one
sad.
of my clients, dear woman, beautiful woman, great real estate agent, perfectionist, tens of thousands of dollars a year on clothing and nails and eyelashes, hair extensions, and everything, so she could look perfect. By the way, perfection is a guaranteed strategy failure because there's no perfect. Gym class one time in fifth grade wore dress shoes because she thought it'd be fun. The kids were merciless in making fun of her. It turned her into perfection. So it doesn't have to be like, an entire, plane crash like my childhood was. It could be something simple that triggered it. And that's why I call it trigger sales system. It's that thing that triggered it. And then that trigger keeps coming back up and it just takes you off course.
Wow. That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Thank you.
You're amazing,
You are
Wally.
too. Thank you.
You're amazing.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
I loved having you as my guest today. Thank you so
Thank you.
much.
I love being here. I appreciate it. Thank you.
For those of you who are interested in the trigger sales system, we will have all of the information in the description below the video. And until next time, my name is Kim Daly, and I want to be your daily coach. If you found this inspiring, please contact me at inquire@kimdaly.tv. My consulting services are totally free to you. Again, that email is inquire@kimdaly.tv. I can't wait to hear from you.